too are first diagnosed with just, vanilla depression, not to diminish anybody's experience of depression. It's just as horrible.
Just the vanilla category
The
type of
vanilla depression, yeah, instead of like we used to call it manic
chocolate.
depression, but now we call it bipolar. Um, or like BPD is frequently first diagnosed as bipolar, or lots of people that have BPD are frequently would have been previously diagnosed as bipolar, usually one. And, all of those sorts of things lead to women being misdiagnosed or
Mhm.
underdiagnosed. So like some of the questions they asked me at the psych eval thing, like this was just a preliminary one, which is why I don't have the full diagnosis. Is like, when you were a kid, did you forget like your homework stuff all the time? And I was like, yep. And that could be an artifact of having like a lack of support at home, right? I'm not
Mhm.
saying that I did, but like in other individuals, it might
Yeah.
not be the fault of the child having a disorder.
Yeah,
It
I
may
mean,
be a
you
fault
you
of
might
lack of supports,
you
right?
might be like taking care of your younger siblings or something, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
like,
So is again, these aren't definitionally like
yeah.
if this then that, but these are indicators. He's like, would you forget your lunch in your, locker, or, a whole bunch of these things that I'm like, yes, yes. And in absence of another explanation, again, we go back to the Occam's razor,
Mhm.
what is the most likely cause here? And it seems like an ADHD diagnosis is never
In
forget the
your
sprinkles.
in your future, is that what?
Yeah, I mean, they also it's really expensive to get evaluated, like a full evaluation for ADHD, which I'm sure you're aware of because you do more human research and,
Yeah.
various
I
other
mean, I
parts
I
of
I
life.
paid a fair amount for mine. I think where I
Did you do it
currently
in Canada or down here?
Canada, I had like crappy student healthcare, but
Mhm.
in where we are now, we have like pretty good healthcare. So Sean's was like essentially free, which is kind of nice.
Oh, shut
Yeah.
up. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old Man Filoni says vanilla with sprinkles. Note, I've had several people with bipolar in my life. I know how serious it is, but sprinkles. Yeah. I mean, it's important to acknowledge that we have a lot of lighthearted takes kind of
Mhm.
spoken in our stream because it's a stream. It's supposed to be fun, but all of these are legitimate concerns, and we do not angle to diminish or
Mhm.
belittle anyone's experience. So I hope that's never what we do. If it is, you can let us know. We'll try
Yeah. I
to better,
mean,
but I feel like if people were feeling that, they probably would just leave.
yeah. I mean, I feel like we are psychologists by training, so we don't take
Yeah.
mental health
Yeah.
or neurodivergence like not
Yeah.
seriously. Obviously, those could, yeah.
I also think that like there's a certain degree for me of
Mhm.
reprieve in levity about my own
Yes. Yeah.
neurodivergence, right? Like talking about like, of course you're ADHD, Alicia, like girl, who were you fooling? Kind of thing is part of
Mhm.
the way that I deal with having like yet another thing wrong with me, technically. If,
The
like,
laundry list.
yeah, like, okay, okay, I'll add that. I'll add that.
Yeah.
But also you don't want to have certain formal diagnoses on record because then if certain people get access to your records and stuff like that, like there's politics in this. It's fucking scary out here,
Yeah.
guys.
That was actually something that my when I like was seeking my diagnosis, my psychologist said to me was that people who have ADHD are not allowed to fly planes. So if I ever, wanted to make a career change to become a pilot, I would not be able to do that if I got this diagnosis. And I was like, I think I'll be fine, but thank you for letting me know.
That's wild. Is that true in all of is that is that true?
I think so. I think it's like a FAA regulation.
I have to report this to some people immediately. That this is not report people. I have to tell some people in my life that are very interested in aviation that they got to keep it on the DL about that attention span.
Oh shit. Okay. That's good. That's
That's
crazy.
funny.
That's so
Um,
crazy.
that's a really interesting fact. Okay, there's very few minutes left. I did look up some research and recent research backed things that you can do that can
Nice.
improve or ease loneliness. So I want to spit a couple of those at us,
Yeah.
at our listeners slash viewers. So let's just go through them.
Yeah.
Okay, music. Particularly upbeat folk music does not have to have lyrics. As long as it's not depressing music, it seems to do the trick. Just straight up listening to music, people that walk in at a certain level of loneliness will walk out from a session feeling less lonely.
Some sea shanties, probably, because that's supposed to be
Sea
specifically yeah,
shanties,
let's do
a
it.
pirate's life for me.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Basically, it's anything that kinda gives, I think it was higher BPM definitely
Mm,
has something to do with
mm,
it, but particularly stuff that evokes imagery, which is, I think, why, this study cited that folk music specifically was really good because it evokes, like, you know, dancing around fiddle stuff, like community. It evokes images of community, which in and of itself can alleviate loneliness. Of course, none of these things are a substitute for actual human interaction, especially meaningful human interaction. But in harm reduction, in
mhm.
absence of the true antidote to the syndrome, we will reach for these other things to help bolster us or strengthen us to get there better. Improved sleep. So this will be an effect that is unsurprising for most of us. Better sleep helps most things. It's a particularly strong effect in younger adults, which I think is interesting. I think just having more sleep is better in general. When you're a teenager, you need so much more sleep than you do as you age, but good sleep is good for everybody. Reading fiction, it's similar
Mm.
to the music one. So this is linked to reduce stress, enhance empathy, because it's basically active perspective taking when you're doing fiction, particularly if it's first person narrated, then you're kind of forced into a perspective taking because you're seeing through the eyes of whatever character, right? Um, and there is some evidence that it can change brain activity that's related to social cognition. I did not get into the meat and potatoes of that particular study because this was actually not a published study yet. This was something that was presented at a academic conference, so it was not under peer review. But there are supporting data that exist around that are things like, book clubs and fantasy readers tend to have lower rates of loneliness reported. But again, that's correlational, so grain of salt, but it does seem to help. And it also helps with like memory and stress and cognition, and particularly in older adults, will help lower risk of dementia and cognitive decline. Um, Face-to-face interaction, no surprise. But the thing that was interesting here was that this was a study that came after the pandemic, and they were looking into this kind of take that a lot of people were having, that having a video call is better than just emailing or texting or whatever. But it actually appears that that's not the case, that digital text based communication, whether it's email, WhatsApp, or texting, was meaningfully associated with improved mental health, and that both face to face and digital communication. Um, were basically equally bolstering compared to not doing any communication at all. So it really doesn't matter the flavor, and it doesn't need to be a video call. That doesn't seem to have any additive effect. It's more about the amount or the um, engaging with an interaction. And of course, face to face, literal face to face beats all of that. And importantly, it doesn't need to be a deep, meaningful face to face. It can just be seeing other people. It can be going to the movies.
Mm.
Like, you don't have to go and have, heart to heart with your best friend. You can go to a coffee shop, and that will give better results than the text based or the video based interventions, which of course are then better than no intervention at all. So I thought that was interesting because
It
I would have
is.
thought that the video would be better. And people said, "Oh, you get visual cues and all of this sort of stuff," but it turns out that the lack of eye contact was apparently one of the things, because you can't make, like, unless you stare at your camera which you then can't look at the other person's video feed if you're staring at your camera. You necessarily cannot make eye contact in video chat, which you can do if you're just at the grocery store. Even if you don't say shit to your cashier, if you make eye contact with them, which you almost certainly will, that will give you more of a social hit than digital communication.
Hmm.
It's crazy.
That's
Yeah,
so interesting, actually. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like if you are do want to check in on somebody, a text is enough, right? Like, but at the same time, it's like if
absolutely.
you're feeling lonely, you don't have to like. You could just also go somewhere face to face, and it would still work for you, right? So that's
Yeah,
those are great
yeah,
stats to have.
yeah. Another thing that was interesting, that's my last major one. I did have
Mhm.
more, but it's a lot more like brain sciencey and that sort of thing. So maybe we can do another episode at a later time. But the idea that the more friends, the better is not true, that
Hmm,
5 is the critical max and that there are no
interesting.
additional benefits for having more than 5. So, particularly in adolescence, but this does hold true across, I think their sample was like 3,000 people up to like age 60 something, particularly for adolescents, but across their whole sample, that increasing the number of close friends beyond around 5 was no longer associated with better mental health outcomes. And they also observed differences in like cortical areas and opioid receptors and all of these amazing things
Hmm.
in your brain that were associated with having more friends from 1 to 5, like I guess from 0 to 5, that it's proportional ranked increase, but after 5 it plateaus
Interesting.
is the point. Yeah.
Okay.
So fewer closer is better,
Better.
apparently.
Nice. I mean, I'm trying to also think of like any adult that has more than like 5 friends, or like you maybe include siblings and friends too if you have a good relationship, like that you talk to on a regular basis. I'm like, it's there's
Hmm.
not very many.
Yeah. The other thing that this study talked about was how childhood friendship can affect you later on in life, and how much this like it was linked to this crystallized intelligence that we talked
Mm-hmm.
about last week, and that you actually get better crystallized intelligence and lower rates of ADHD symptoms in children that go on later in life, kind of thing, if the child had meaningful close friends in their childhood. So if you have like an isolated kid, which is depressing as adults because we can't do
Yeah.
anything, but if we're all out there maybe trying to impact children's lives and
Yeah.
stuff like that,
I
make sure those guys have friends.
I would also say that that might be that could be like, so we're talking about the friends thing. It might be the opposite direction, that relationship, right? Because people with
Mhm.
ADHD, like, so we're talking about loneliness, often like they don't, there's this thing of like they don't miss
Yes.
people because it's like this, like they lacked object permanence, essentially.
Mhm.
We lacked object permanence. And then
Yes.
so then you don't really like build these long, like you are in class with somebody in kindergarten, you're not going to like maintain that friendship per se.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that might be like a different direction, but anyways, that's just a
So they talked about basically both having too few and having too many. So again, below and
okay.
above this critical mass of
Hmm.
5 were associated with higher levels of ADHD symptoms
Hmm.
and lower crystallized intelligence at a 2 year later mark. And then downstream they had like less direct measures kind of thing, but this
Yeah.
was like a repeated longitudinal inventory kind of thing where they were able to get those same individuals. And the problem that I have with that is kind of, I think what you're alluding to is chicken egg. Like, is
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
do they have fewer friends because they're already have lower crystallized intelligence? But I guess the longitudinal design does try and control for that because you can see that they do have
Mm-hmm.
more. But maybe it's an incubation effect, right? Like we
Yeah.
don't know that that wasn't going to happen anyways, and that's impossible to tell
Yeah.
in that nature of that study. So yeah. So those are the things that I found out.
Those are great things. I was gonna say,
Yeah.
as always, we're ending on a everything's a gray area sort of message, right? But also with some hope. I love that you were like, here's
Yeah.
something that might be useful, which I appreciate.
Oh, I totally missed that chat was active, I'm so sorry. Discordianism was right. The law of fives is a core principle of a happy life. I
Mhm.
didn't know that that was already a well-known phenomena, Old Man Felonious.